Speak now. Speak now. Speak now. I am going to introduce Boris Emanuel. He is a little bit more local, so not as much of a trip for him, with Love Your Neighbour Communities. Link for short, Link's mission is to revitalize people and rural communities through equitable housing and social enterprise. As an organization, they wish to meet the needs of their neighbors for equitable and affordable housing, food security, social isolation, and environmental responsibility. Boris grew up in a community living environment on the island of Antigua, where he learned at a very young age how to work in a community while fulfilling his own personal potential. Boris spent the last 35 years developing people, services, and programs to meet the needs of individuals and groups who are marginalized as a result of poverty, addictions, social disorders, as well as physical, emotional, and financial abuse. His extensive experiences from the front line to the boardroom locally and internationally have given him valuable experience collaborating with community-based organizations. Boris is participating in Saha's CLT info event because he is passionate about bringing people together to meet needs and build community resiliency. Says Boris, we create spaces and design programs for people to gather and support one another. Community is at the center of all we do. We listen to our residents and local neighbors and together build community that is vibrant, relevant, and meets needs. Link exists to support diverse communities. There it is, yeah. Diverse communities. We provide opportunities for all people to grow together through knowledge and skills exchange. Now, let's hope the sound works.
While they're checking out to see if the sound works, just want to give you a little bit of background about me so that you understand.
New Hamburger.
Wait, that's going to work. So that you understand Link a little bit better. I immigrated to Canada back in 1977. The Montreal Canadiens were on their way to the first of 3 NHL championships. Fell in love with Guy. Yeah, thank you. Fell in love with Guy Lafleur. They were actually showing the hockey game on the airplane as I was traveling on BW, even way back then. But I grew up, and right away I got involved in community because in Antigua they say it takes a village to raise a child, and seriously, that's the way we do it there. And I started when I was 17 years old with the Ray of Hope here in Kitchener, working with young offenders, built a home for unwed mothers for teenagers when I would think was 19 in Springfield, Ontario. And then a few years ago, not really a few years ago, I went back to Antigua and I learned some very important lessons. And I want you to understand these lessons to understand what you're going to see in the video. I went back to Antigua as a missionary with my church organization. And when I went back there were so many needs that nobody was doing anything. They do not have the social infrastructure that we do here in North America. And so we created an organization called HERO, bringing churches and bringing the community and government agencies together to meet the needs of people. And we started building homes for unwed mothers, addiction centers. You may have heard of Eric Clapton. He has one of the best addiction centers in the world, Crossroads Center, where all the stars go to. Well, my organization was the one who was involved in that, helping to bring that about. And we did those kind of things, and I was learning a lot of lessons. And one day, the jail, the only jail they have on the island, where I was actually teaching chapel that day, was set on fire. And I mean, it was an old building. It called it Her Majesty's Prison. And the whole thing burned. The fire was so huge that you could see it from all across the island. The island's only 108 square miles. And so everybody came rushing to the fire. They came on donkeys, they came on goats, they came on buses. I mean, however they could get there, and they were all trying to help out. And myself, having the background and the training I did, found myself spending more time rescuing people who were trying to rescue, who were trying to put out the fire, than helping with the fire. And it taught me a valuable lesson. And when I came back to Canada, I went back to work for Ray of Hope in the community center in Kitchener, where we were feeding like 300 people at night, people who are living on the streets, people without homes. And what I saw there reminded me of the lesson I learned in Antigua. When it comes to helping one another in our community, we tend to be fire rushers. We wait till things blow up in our face and we all run and we put all of our resources, all of our money, all of our efforts to putting out the fire, and we never put it out because it's just too big. And I learned a valuable lesson of that when it comes to, for example, housing. That's what we do, isn't it? We're looking at all the people living in shelters, we're looking at all the people living in tents, and we're saying, well, we have a big problem, and we're dumping so much money to helping these people. Not that that's wrong, but it's the wrong approach. How about doing something to help them from getting into that position in the first place? And that's what Link is all about. Link is actually about doing something to help the single mom, to help the young family, to help the elderly couple who are having a difficult time making ends meet, who's having a difficult time paying for housing in our society, and we all know how expensive that is, to provide attainable housing for them. A couple of distinctives about Link is not only do we provide attainable housing for anyone, but we also work strictly in rural communities. One of the things I discovered also is that our government has a lot of resources, and most of it goes to our city. Nothing against those in our big city centers, but very few dollars actually end up here in Stratford, in New Hamburg, in Drayton, in Wellesley, in all these small rural communities. And so Link has set itself as a developer who works directly with rural communities. And the other thing that you need to realize about us is that we believe that community is the element of change. If you really want to make a difference, it has to come from the community, not from governments, not from politicians, but from community members coming together, working together to make a change. And as you look at the video, you'll get those ideas across. The video concentrates specifically on the mill block development that we're doing in New Hamburg right now, but we're not limited to that. The same principles that you see behind the video of how we believe housing should be developed is the same principle we're applying to several other projects that we're doing across Ontario right now, and others that we plan on doing as we develop. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and again, you'll have time for questions.